Okay, lovely. So the topic today is unleashing inner potential to accelerate SDG impact. And I saw some of the comments in the chat was around that. Like, how do we drive impact? How do we drive action from the IDGs? How can it be applied in the coaching setting? So hopefully that will be clear at the end of this call together, and hopefully you will also get a sense of how it works, because we're going to be doing a demo, and Kathy has very kindly volunteered to be the coachee. So thank you very much, Kathy. And yeah, so this is what I've sort of prepared in terms of agenda. So I'll start off with a little bit of background and introduction to the measurement tool and how it came about. Then go a little bit into the philosophy behind it, because it's not really like other tools or assessment tools that we're familiar with. It has some unique philosophical aspects to it, I think, that are quite important. Then we'll go into the demo, and then we'll have some conversation around the coaching best practices that you may have observed during the demo and harvest that. And then there's also an organizational case study. I think there's some interest as well around how we can apply this in team and organizational settings. So hopefully this case study will give an idea of how that is possible. So my entry into inner development, and specifically measuring inner development, goes back quite a while now. It's actually around 2013 when I stepped out of the corporate environment, and I, had just gotten my coaching certification, and I was very, very passionate about the power of coaching and the power of unlocking potential, human potential. And I'd also seen that there was quite a big need in organizations to understand what potential is, what it means, how it is expressed or not expressed in certain situations, so that it's easier to act on it. And I realized that there was very little action in these deeper areas of our human beingness, simply because we didn't have ways of measuring it, and we didn't have the right language, we didn't have the right frameworks. And so that sort of became my mission for a year or two. Actually, there was a lot of research that went into it, and at the end of the day, this is the framework that came through. And as you can see, there's 4 pillars, right? Being aware, being inspired, being abundant, being in service, and there's 23 dimensions, we called them back in the day as well. And you probably will see that these are quite different things that typical assessments will look at, and we really tried to get to the core of what makes us human, right? The unique human qualities, and that we all have, right? That unite us as human beings. So we all have access to this. We don't always express it fully in our lives, but these are the unique human qualities, and that the more that these get expressed, the more we're going to feel a sense of purpose, meaning, and fulfillment in our lives, right? So the more we reach our full potential. So that was kind of the idea. And for me, it was really important to bring this measurement because I really wanted to be working with organizations and teams and leaders. And I realized that, deep inner work would only be possible if we could provide a little bit of objectivity to this very subjective area. So once this, model and framework sort of came to life, and the assessment around it started to come to life, we started to get opportunities to go into companies, go into teams, and start working with this. And this was back in 2013. And, the other part of the framework is, what is also really, really important is, especially in the organizational context, is, how do these unique, or these human qualities, these human skills, how do they impact the business, right? How do they help the results, the things that we know are really important for organizational success. So we created this iceberg model as a way to tell the story of how the being, so the inner, everything underneath the water, the things that are sort of subtle and a bit fuzzy and not always well understood, how they impact the things that we recognize as being key drivers, right? So customer, employee engagement, leadership, trustworthiness, inventiveness, getting things done. And the assessment would give insight on all of these aspects of the iceberg. So everything from the bottom layer where we have the attitudes to the middle layer, which is the house, right? The four states, and then the organizational performance metrics. So I'm just sharing this because just to give a sort of a background on where I come from and how passionate I am about inner work, and especially the measuring of it, or bringing more objectivity to the very subjective nature of it. And then, of course, when I came across the IDGs back in 2021, 22, I was, completely amazed that they had also ended up with 23 skills, right? Now it's 25, but at the time it was 23 skills. And that the purpose of the framework was also very, very similar. It was a communication tool. It wasn't the end in itself. It wasn't because we had a framework that all of a sudden people would, you know, easily be able to do the important inner work. No, it was more a starting point for conversation, a way to start engaging with it, a way to bring new people into the space of inner work, inner development, growth, etc. So there, from a intention point of view, there was a lot of similarities. And so, of course, I was starting to get involved with the community and had a lot of nice interactions with people. There's a global practitioner network, perhaps some of you are aware of. They would meet every month. And I started to get the opportunity to share and to present a little bit of my work in this space. And I realized that there was a lot of interest in the measurement. And a lot of people were saying, wow, that's so amazing that, you've been able to somehow measure this. And, we would love to have that as well, because it's whenever we go to organizations or to companies, that's one of the first things they ask for, right? So how do we measure this? How do we know that we're making a difference on these inner skills, right? If we're going to invest in it, if we're going to do work on it, how do we know that we're moving the needle? That's how these organizations think. And so the more I was starting to hear that, the more I realized maybe there's an opportunity to take sort of the technology, everything that has been created over the years, the whole IT platform, and reuse some of it, maybe 70-80% of it, to be able to give some output on the IDGs. So I went through a whole process of sort of checking whether or not, the questionnaire that we had would also be able to give some insight on the IDGs, and came to the conclusion that yes, it would be possible to reuse a lot of things. So now we have two front ends. We have the human potential platform front end with the house, and we have the IDG front end with the IDG guide and framework. And in the back end, there's a lot of things that are being reapplied. So this was really a beautiful way to not only serve the community, but also to get more value out of the investments in the technology and all the work that have been going on for many years. And since this is an open source, the IDGs is open source, so it's really encouraging people to build on it. That's what we ended up doing. And the other, I guess, important thing is that part of my vision and the vision of being at full potential, which is the company that I started, is to democratize access to inner development or human potential development. And I really do believe that it is a basic human right that anyone who wants to know their inner selves and wants to express their potential should have the possibility to access resources there and to be able to do that work. And that I think also happens to be the key to solving a lot of the big issues that we're facing today. So, that was really also the motivation to make this free and accessible, and to give everyone who wants to go on a journey like this access to the tools. And also a way of course, giving back to the community. So that's a little bit of background. We launched the IDG version back in 2024, so June 2024. And so in the last year and a half almost, there have been, I would say quite a significant number of people who have engaged with the assessment. I think we're around 2,000 respondents now. We've offered, I think, 5 or 6 different certification programs. So people who want to be able to use this with their clients and debrief them on their findings, we have a certification program for that. And yeah, I think that's the most important thing I wanted to cover in terms of the background. Just checking with Rachel, is it a good moment to pause and maybe see if there are any questions, or should I just go on and speak a bit more about
I
the
think it's
philosophy?
great if we can open up to as much conversation as possible, and so that people can, as questions come up, please feel free, or comments or anything.
Yeah.
And you're welcome to write things in the chat as we go along. I can keep track of those and sort of slot anything in where it's appropriate. So no questions so far.
All right, well, I keep going then.
Charlie.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mark, for this work. And I was going, okay, I wonder how much it's going to cost to get like a client to do this. So making it open source and the same, and part of my value system also democratizing access to this inner work. So there's a lot of gratitude for all of the work that you have done on this and making this accessible. I'd like to hear more about the certification program. Maybe right now isn't the time, but on how to bring clients through this. And I also, as a side comment, I developed a signature coaching program that I called Sustainable Leadership from the Inside Out, and then discovered the IDGs, and now discovering your work. So it's just, it's lovely, these fractals, right, coming together, and then like, okay, these ideas they're popping up in different ways, which to me is an indication like this is where we're heading. And I also believe that this is our only way to think that we might survive as a species or without annihilating, 90% of us. So yeah, just thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, it's always amazing when similar initiatives sort of come up at the same time, right? I totally agree with you that it's really a sign that the timing is right, that this is the moment to step forward and to, I think also to collaborate across sort of our, not really boundaries, but our specific, aspects of our work. And I think there are really lots of opportunities to come together and step even more into the co-creation as well.
Yeah, it seems to me like it's about creating a critical mass of people that have access and are working towards these kinds of things, right? To be able to shift this, what seems to be quite a downward spiral at the moment, without wanting to be too pessimistic about it. But yeah.
Yeah.
Tamara.
I just had a question, Mark, about just curious, having both front ends of this assessment, if who you share your being a full potential, who you bring into IDGs. Do you have certain organizations that are, more oriented to one or the other? Like besides that sharing it with the community for them to use it where they want. Just curious about your own business.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Actually, from a marketing point of view, it actually makes quite a lot of sense because the IDGs obviously speaks very much to people who are in the space of sustainability. And not only, but that is really a fairly easy story to tell, and people understand that. And a lot of people are familiar with IDGs. Also in education, the IDGs is really getting a lot of traction. So we're seeing a lot of people from universities, professors that are discovering this and sending it out to their students and then doing work with them on that. So it seems to be picking up a lot of either in the sustainability area or in the education space for now. And then the being at full potential, if you remember the iceberg I showed you, you have things like innovation and trustworthiness and customer and employee engagement. So it speaks a lot to the business, sort of more the business organizational type of people who feel stuck sometimes. They're like, we tried everything to increase engagement. We have all these programs, we're putting tons of money into it, work from home and fitness at work and well-being programs and all these things, and we're not seeing the needle move. And what they're starting to realize is that the real driver of engagement is a sense of purpose and meaning and impact and really, work that matters and things like that. So that opens up this whole space of the inner, right? How are people showing up? Are they able to express their unique gifts and talents? Are they able to bring their, purpose to life in the work that they do? And that's like a big kind of aha in many organizational settings. And they go like, yeah, that's really what we need. And it's amazing to see something that sort of tells that story in a way that we can understand. So the iceberg has been a very, very powerful way of opening up doors in companies and organizations. So it's really two quite unique
Yeah, it's super
sort of
interesting.
groups. And yet at the core, it's the same essence, right? And I think that's what makes it really quite nice. Yeah, thank you for these questions. It's nice.
Can I permit myself another question? Does anybody else have one that would rather give
Yeah.
space to somebody who doesn't
I
have a question?
have a question, but I put it in the wrong place, Mark. Sorry. I'll put it in the regular chat. So you mentioned university students. What about younger children or any of the quote unquote certified green schools? Do you know if any of them are using this?
I don't know about green schools. I haven't heard of that before, Kathy, but
Okay.
yeah, I think, I think universities for sure, and then probably high school would also be, would definitely would already be possible to bring this in. I think, any kids like 15, 16, they already talk a lot about, who they are and self-development. I think it's quite a, at least when I remember when I was young, I never thought about these things, but I do see my kids who are, they're that age and their friends, they're much more into that and already interested in it. And I think for them, it's very natural, right, to find alignment with what they do and who they are, and they think quite a bit about that. So yeah, I do think it can be earlier. Kids, I wouldn't really necessarily think that this would be that interesting to kids, like young kids. But it could be brought to life in a different way that would engage them. But I think a framework and definitions and too much words and stuff like that probably wouldn't capture their attention very well.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the philosophy behind it. I think it's also really important and sort of a distinctive aspect of it. So you see the color coding, and there's 4 colors. There's red, yellow, green, and purple. And we very deliberately use the terminology of expressed or not expressed, or unexpressed, underexpressed, well expressed, and highly or fully expressed. Actually, it's not fully expressed is not really the right terminology. It should be highly expressed. And that is, I think, quite significant, even though it's just a word, but it's quite significant because underneath that is is the belief that these skills are inherent in all of us, right? In all human beings. These skills, these human skills are inherent in us. And that it is a question of to what extent are we expressing them at the current, stage of our life, right? In the context in which we are. And that, the expression can vary, right? Depending on what's going on in our lives, depending on what we're interested in or the type of, work we're busy with, but also the level of investment we make in our own self-growth. We can grow and develop all of these qualities. So they're essential human skills, qualities. So it's not, how we might think about it as we have it. Some people have a quality or a strength, and in other areas they have sort of a weakness, or and then also, when we work with clients, and that's why coaching is such a great methodology for this, is we're really getting in touch with what's already there, right? So we believe that the resourcefulness, all the answers, all the wisdom, and everything that the individual needs to take the next step on their journey, on their growth journey, is already within them. They might not be able to see it yet, but with a framework like this, and with the output of an assessment, and with the help of a coach, they can start to get in touch with that. And as they get in touch with it, they can start to practice it, express it, and bring it to life in their day-to-day. Yeah, so that's why it lends itself very nicely to coaching. Another way to think about the color coding is, I guess many of you are probably familiar with vertical development and horizontal development. And if you're not, we can talk about that afterwards a bit more. But is sort of on this scale of red being, we're asleep to something within us, to a skill or a quality, or something is blocking the expression of that within us. And then yellow is, the beginning of waking up and seeking, exploring. And green would then be, you've arrived, you're expressing it, you feel alive in that area, you're seeing results. And then purple would be really this moment of thriving, but also not just thriving, but also starting to look beyond, right? Because all of these skills are infinitely more expressible, if you like, right? When it comes to human development, it doesn't make sense to say, oh, I've reached the ceiling. I'm, in terms of courage, I'm the most courageous that anyone has ever been, and there's no possibility to grow further in that. That doesn't make a lot of sense, right? So it's, no matter how expressed we are in a certain skill, there's always, a next level of expression in that. And when we're in that purple, that's what we start to explore, is what is the next level of expression in that particular area. So it's reimagining, right? And, maybe you're familiar with the cup metaphor. So, vertical development or horizontal development is filling the cup, right? So you're growing within that same reference point. And vertical development is when we expand the cup. So our awareness, our consciousness, our way of looking at the world is expanding. And all of a sudden, there's more room for us to grow again. So that's why we've often seen people who've taken the assessment, one time, and they're highly expressed in a certain area, and they do some coaching, they do some work on themselves, and then they take the assessment again, and they see their score in that particular area come down. And the reason for that is that the way they think about themselves has evolved, has changed. And so, the way they answer it also changes, and they see, oh, wow, now all of a sudden they see there's growth, right? Room for growth there. And so it's quite interesting. If you're familiar with the U theory, which I guess most of you are as well, it's interesting to sort of lay over the U onto this this red, yellow, green, purple. So if something is blocked, or if we're sort of asleep to something, then there's a letting go, and then coming to presence, right? Which is the waking up and the seeing with new eyes, fresh eyes, and then stepping into something new. That then is the upper part of the U. So this is also sort of a nice way to think about how these things are linked together. Yeah, that is actually all that I wanted to share right now on the assessment and on the background on the tool. There's much more we could talk about, but I think this is probably a good introduction. And so the next part would be to go into the into the coaching demo, actually. So, like I said, Kathy has very kindly volunteered. So thank you very much, Kathy. I have your report here and I'll bring it up in a second, but I just want to check a few things with you first.
Sure.
So,
Well, just let me, I need some accommodation with my arm. Can I just get something to put underneath
of
it,
course,
please?
yeah, take your time.
Sorry.
So the call is still being recorded, right, Rachel? You're on mute, Rachel.
So yeah, you need to decide, Kathy, whether you would like this part to be recorded or not. It's really up to you.
I'm actually okay with it being recorded. My one request maybe is that everyone who's on video take themselves off. It would make it easier for me to see
Sure,
both
that's a
Mark
good
and the
idea.
screen.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
it's,
Really good idea.
and Mark, if we could just contract at the beginning what we're going to do in the 20 minutes, I'm very comfortable with recording for the sake of learning for myself and for others.
Thank you so much.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, thank you so much, Kathy. So yes, when you said contract what we're going to do, what do you mean exactly? Like what? So
Well, like what do you think we can get to in the 20 minutes?
okay, so the idea is not to go very deep, but it is more to show how to navigate the report and help
Okay.
somebody get to some insight around the inner development, but also how it connects to their relationship with the Sustainable Development Goals, right? So,
Okay.
that was also the topic, is how do you bridge inner development with the Sustainable Development? And so, there's some techniques and some, example or some exercise that we're going to do. I don't know how it's going to unfold, but it's
Okay.
it will be more sort of navigating the whole of the report rather than, going very deep in a certain area.
Okay. I'm open to that. There is one particular part of it that I'm most interested in. I don't know if you want me to share that now, if that influences how you go through it.
Yeah, we'll do that. So I'll set it up
Okay.
and then you can take
Cool.
me there in a second. So I just want to get that sort of, if everything is okay on your side, out of the way,
Yep.
and then we can dive into the coaching.
I'm okay.
Lovely. So then I'll ask Rachel if you could also keep an eye on the time. I would say anywhere between 15, maybe 16, 17 minutes, but not beyond that.
Sure.
So we can try
Okay.
and keep it. Yeah. Lovely. Okay, let me just bring up your report. So thank you so much, Kathleen, for taking the time to visit this IDG report together with me. And so the purpose is really to help you find your own story in the data, in the output. This is going to be very much a coaching session, so I'm not going to be telling you what it means. That's definitely not the way that this will go. It's more, I'm here to sort of help you understand what the different aspects are, but to, at the end of the day, to help you see how are they interconnected and what is the potential story here. So let me just, take you through, there's three sort of parts to the report. So, after the background, right, we've already spoken about the importance of inner development, how it connects to sustainable development. So I won't go into detail there. We also spoke about the color coding. So that's all clear, it's expression. It's not you have it or you don't have it. It's more about, these are all skills that we have, and it's just a question of how expressed they are. So I won't speak more about that. But the first part is really the inner, right? So these are the 23 inner development skills, and you're getting some feedback on how expressed they are today. So that's the first part. The second part is around leadership. So how is this expressing in your leadership? And that's through the lens of what we call action logics. And so that's the second part. And then the third part is the sustainable development goals. And, you know, that is obviously the impact in the outer space, in the outer world.
Mhm.
And we can start anywhere, right? So we can start at any one of these three. And I would just like to ask you, where would you like to jump in? How would you like to start the session?
So I'd like to look at what is, I think this, I also have it up, is the piece where it looks at the expressed, and there's green and one yellow.
Mhm.
So, right. So, I'd like to talk a little bit about that.
Okay, so we start with the inner.
Yes.
Perfect, yeah. So tell me, you know, is there something in particular that drew your attention when you saw this?
Yes, of the five
Mhm.
rather, I'm surprised that this is the lowest,
The
honestly. Very,
collaborating.
very, yes, it is
Okay.
really surprising to me. I would have thought one of the other ones was much more, I would have
Okay.
expected one of the other ones to be lower.
And is there one in particular that you would have expected to be lower?
I think the acting
The
or the
acting,
relating, the acting or the relating would have
acting or
been,
relating.
particularly the
Okay.
relating, would have been, if the measure is expressed,
Mhm.
yes.
Okay. So tell me about collaborating. Is that something that's really important to you? Is that something that you've been putting a lot of effort into?
Yeah,
Why
great.
why do you feel that that would be something that would be higher in terms of how it's expressed?
Okay. So just context, I work very much for myself or in strategic partnerships with others. And
Mhm.
because of um, working increasingly remotely, some other personal issues, and then now with losing a lot of work because of the state of the world since like December, I've had to actively go out and look for new people to work with, new people to collaborate with. So it's like,
Mhm.
it's, you know, I think I've written 30 proposals this year, and maybe 80% of them are with people I know, but I've never worked with directly.
Mhm.
So collaborating is something, you know, first of all, is me looking at an opportunity and say, who could I work with on this, and having a conversation, not just jumping right into it, to getting onto a team and trying to clarify, like, you know, when you've given me this role, how do I do it? You know, asking
Mhm.
those questions, trying to appreciate that I'm the newbie on the team.
Mhm.
It's real for me, right?
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
and then just work that I've been doing for a while, where I often play a role in a conversation where I bring ideas together, like both and
Mhm.
I can hear different points of view. So
Mhm.
from that perspective, such a low score was really interesting to me.
Mhm.
And as I said, I would have thought relating or acting um, would be much lower. Would have, of the three, would have, I mean, well, collaborating is just a surprise to me that that's the lowest expressed, but
Mhm.
relating or acting, I would have thought would have been the lowest
Mhm. You know, it's
of
interesting
the
because
four.
when I hear you describe, right, the sort of, you know, the efforts you've been putting at rebuilding your business, um, it I hear a lot of courage. I hear a lot of kind of creativity, perseverance, you know, the perseverance of 80 proposals, getting out there, you know, reaching out to people, rekindling, you know, your network. And so it, like, to me, it sounds like a lot of the sort of the skills that sit under the acting. Um, does that speak to you at all? Like, do you, or are you very clear that no, the focus has really been on those skills that sit in the collaborating
So that's
dimension?
super interesting. So yes, and um, acting, there is acting there, but if I look at inclusive mindset, right, I'll just, without naming what I was doing this morning, was brought into a was brought into a workshop planning event that I'm not part of, where I could hear the differences, where the challenge was, and I was able to take a statement that was made and reinterpret it for somebody else so that it made sense. That was part of the role that I was bringing. And then getting acknowledgement that I also bring often in these spaces. I'm one of the few people coming from the continent of Africa, where I've lived for 20 years. And I can bring that perspective, not in an aggressive way, because I'm not from there, but I have an understanding of some of the challenges. And I want to see how some of these ideas work for everyone, not just for a certain group of people. So I'm often asking, what are the other voices? Can we find another reference point? So to me, that is a little bit of inclusive mindset and intercultural competence, maybe not highly expressed, because I am very direct, very North American, and online, I probably come off even stronger that way. So that was surprising when I understood
Could we just,
yeah,
sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, because sometimes it helps to just ground in the definitions for a little bit, because and there's one other skill in particular that I'm curious about when I hear you speak, and that's perspective skill. So if you don't mind, maybe we could just quickly look at the definition of both inclusive mindset and perspective skills, and just to see if how they compare. And I'm curious myself, actually. So here we have perspective skills, skills in seeking, understanding, and actively making use of insights from contrasting perspectives. So skills in seeking, understanding, and actively making use of insights from contrasting perspectives. So that one is well expressed for you. And then inclusive mindset and intercultural competence, the willingness and competence to embrace diversity and include people and collectives with different views and backgrounds. So it's interesting because one of them, let's just look at perspective skill. It's 79, so it's quite up there. When you look at the definitions, is there anything that
Well, the inclusive mindset would mean actively looking for and bringing into the table others. I sometimes may not go to the source, might speak on their behalf from my understanding. There's certain behaviors perhaps that I find more challenging than others when you're doing group work, that I may avoid engaging. For example, I work with one person who every time we speak is talking, chewing, cooking, walking, and it's like their right to do so. Because who am I to? And I can't. I find it very hard to have any conversation with them because it's noisy. I can see them doing it. And yet I'm forced to engage with them. So from their point of view, standing and talking or sitting and talking is not, they have a very different point of view as to why those behaviors facilitate their thinking.
Okay.
But they make it very challenging for me. So I'm being judgmental even as I speak now.
Yeah. No, it's great to share. That's really helpful when you can share like specific, concrete examples like that. Do you feel for your own personal growth, is that something you would like to be able to sort of see, explore if there are other ways in which situations like that could be handled, or are you quite happy with, sort of keeping them a little bit aside, from how you're engaging?
I mean, I know we don't have lots of time, but I'm going to be working in real life with a team next week that I'm part of. I've spent 6+ months trying to get to this point. And I've just been given a role that is not what I expected. and will challenge me both cognitively, behaviorally, and actually technically. And I'm fairly confident, having asked clarifying questions like, do I need to bring my computer to update the attendance list, being told no, everything will be printed. It's done. We're not talking the same language, right? They're not getting where I'm coming from at all. I'm fairly confident that I'm going to have to, I'll be asked to update the attendance list as who actually attended. But the questions are like seen as something very different, and there really isn't the time to negotiate that conversation. So I would like to go into next week's event with this new role that I'm going to be, that I, with people I don't know, with a positive, open mind. Because I need to make an informed decision if this is a relationship I want to continue, given what I'm perceiving as different ways of working that may not be long-term in my interest.
Yeah, so going in with an open mind.
Yeah, I'd love to see how to use this to be inclusive or different perspectives. And part of it is intercultural competence. There's an age and identity difference, and part corporate and personal.
Yeah, no, it's a beautiful intention that you're sharing. Feels quite profound. Yeah, so I know we don't have too much time left, but is there something else, like just don't really pay attention to the colors for now.
Yeah.
But is there a skill, another skill here that you feel might be sort of a possible enabler of kind of prepping yourself for that? I don't remember if it's a workshop or like the, this this next engagement. Yeah.
Well, I mean, if we go over to thinking, the long-term orientation and visioning, I think that could be helpful. Just very, I am, things are so up and down at the moment on so many different levels that I'm actively not trying to have a long-term vision because I feel like I'll be disappointed, or I give off messages and people act on them or hold me to account that I can't deliver. So maybe being open, trying to have some sort of container of a long-term vision as to why am I putting all this effort into collaboration with people that I don't yet really know. Like maybe letting go of the fact that this may not be a group of people I'm working with next week, but I've learned something by doing this. And that maybe this face-to-face encounter will either humanize people to me so I can see how better to work with them, or point out to me that maybe this is not the group of people I want to work with or put too much effort into, because I might be disappointed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really very interesting how you're bringing the long term in, because then sometimes it helps, even if that long term is not communicated, but you're just holding it for yourself, right? It's like a longer term intention. Then it can help to sort of alter our relationship to the short term bumps, that come and go in our lives, right? Like that, what whatever happens, we have like a longer term frame to sort of, like you say, a container to hold that in, and maybe seeing them, as sort of setups for something else, right? That's like a stepping stone to something else. But without that longer term vision, then it's harder to have that perspective, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, there's a metaphor that a friend of mine used. It's like riding a mountain bike, right? If you look down, you're going to fall. But if you look further, then you don't really see what the bumps are. I mean, I think maybe because my path is so, just even this morning, new information came that means that I don't know what, in 2 weeks, I'm not sure which country I'm going to be in, which was not what I thought yesterday.
Yeah.
And how to figure that out today.
Yeah.
But like, I just have to think, okay, all of this is, working towards this because
Yeah.
the path is so uncertain and in some cases high risk.
Yeah. This is a really beautiful setup, and for potentially, just having a quick look at the SDGs, like a bridge into the SDGs, if you don't mind, because
Absolutely.
I think the SDGs do give sort of that sense of purpose, right? This is what's important to me. This is long-term impact, where I want to have long-term impact. So if we just have a quick look at, these 17 sustainable development goals, and you look at, the activities that you're, investing your time in these days. If you just put those activities aside a little bit and ask yourself long term, where do you, Kathy, have the greatest desire to make an impact based on, your unique life experiences, the things that are important to you? Where do you feel drawn to?
So it's really hard to answer that question, Mark. And maybe this is my expert achiever, right? Action logic that where I'm at right now. It still falls towards 17, where, I live on a continent where I live in a country where 90% of the population is under 35, and of that, the average age is 19. Like I'm a dinosaur. So what my unique skills can offer is taking an idea and helping it move forward, connecting people to resources, letting people know what's top, what's the current thinking right now, giving feedback, maybe financially supporting or facilitating that support. I still don't see it very different than 17. And so
Well,
it's like helping someone else's vision come to life.
yeah, I mean, that sounds to me very powerful, actually, and, quite visionary also. So I don't know why you, or what made you have that, sort of limiting it to, oh, maybe just because of, the expert action logic that I'm in. Because, I think what you're describing here is that, the young continent, a lot of young people who are energetic, have, motivation and desire and drive and all of that. But, what they're maybe missing is the wisdom on how to move forward and how to, do it in the most efficient ways and smart ways, and how to reach out. And so it feels like, that's a very valuable contribution, and also a really interesting way of positioning yourself in terms of, your uniqueness and what you can bring. So to me, hearing you speak about it like that feels actually quite, quite visionary, if you like.
Thank you. I can acknowledge, though it doesn't change my day to day.
Well, I don't know exactly where we are on time. I think we may
we're
still have a
almost,
couple of minutes.
yeah.
Is there, we've actually kind of traveled quite a bit in a short period of time, Kathy, but just to check in with you, is there anything that you're taking away from this conversation? Anything that you would like to still sort of double click on, perhaps?
Yeah, I mean, so I can tell you what I'm taking away, but can we just go back up to the inner compass and the inner piece and just look at mobilization, maybe the definition of mobilization that's
Definition
under,
of mobilization. Okay, let's go down here.
No, it's there, because I
Mobilization.
think I need to understand that a bit.
Skills in inspiring
Okay,
and
yeah.
mobilizing others
Yeah,
to
so
engage.
that's one I struggle with. I can do it for somebody else, maybe, but I have a very hard time doing it for myself.
And
Feels
is
very
that in any way
transactional.
connected to what we were just talking about with the partnership, SDG?
Yes, I don't feel like I'm able to mobilize on my behalf.
So you can see where, the connection points would be, let's say for, a young entrepreneur, you could see like sort of how what support could look like for them, but in terms of mobilizing the actors, that's where you see opportunity.
So like I'm looking at it for myself right now. When I need to collaborate, I'm like for things that I need.
I see. Okay. Yeah.
That's where I have a hard
Okay.
time inspiring people.
I see. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's beautiful that you can share that, that feels very real and very authentic. And I think that would be an amazing space to, continue to look at, right? It feels like yeah, like something that would unlock and unleash a lot within you, if you get in touch with that ability, that to inspire. And I think it feels also connected to the long-term visioning, which is kind of also about inspiring, right? It's about seeing something that doesn't exist yet, but being able to hold a vision that is inspiring. And to know that it's within you, I think that's part of the beauty of this, is that there is this deep sense that we all have that capacity, right, to inspire, to bring our authenticity to life, because that's ultimately, I think, what inspires people is the realness, our authentic selves. And
Yeah.
I think that would be a very, beautiful space to step into and to explore as a potential next step, I think.
Thank you, Mark. I think just to help us for the sake of this demo, just to like, what am I taking away, is a greater understanding of what the essence of collaboration is. And I think you really picked up on the fact that many of the behaviors that I was talking about were about doing. And yet I see myself lower on the doing. But when I saw that, the way you highlighted and the perspective taking, that I may be misaligning certain parts of the behavior and the intent with collaboration. And maybe I need to go back and really unpack a bit of what am I being transactional when I think I'm collaborating, and or something more than that. Yeah.
Wow.
Thank you.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you for sharing that. That feels like a very powerful takeaway. So well done, Kathy.
No,
And thank you
you.
so
I
much.
appreciate it. No, thank you very much.
So we'll close it here, and we'll go back to the group.
That was beautiful. Thank you so much, both of you.
Yeah.
So would you like to go into an exchange? Would you like to ask Kathy how that felt first? Or?
Yeah, so normally this would be a good time just to do a bit of a debrief. So, just to take a step back and hear from you, Kathy, but then also to hear from the group. And, I think we're a small enough group that we can do this in the main room, Rachel.
For sure.
So the idea is just to take 10, 15 minutes to, to share our observations. Maybe there were some best practices that you observed, coaching wise, things that you would like to share. Just in general, the value of a tool like this and how it can open things up. So I would love to first hear from Kathy, and then anyone else who would like to share some perspective.
Yeah. So as a coaching process, right, even if you had done the setup, right, I think because we're a small group, I can look at the setup, the questions, the presentation of it, that could see it as part of a debrief. The fact that you gave me choice of where I wanted to start was really important. So getting the report ahead of time, I was prepared for this, right? And even when you asked me, did I want to be recorded or not? I had prepared myself for the experience. I think, doing it with people who are prepared for what's the purpose of it, nothing to do with being recording, always improves the quality of a coaching session. So, preparing people for this, that really because I had something very specific, I appreciated that you were able to the visual allowed us to look at the different perspectives. There was the definitions. You invited me to look at and see what's different. And you were also like not the expert. You were saying like, well, let me look at it too. Let me refresh. Gave me trust actually that we could really, had we had more time, we could really get into what would be examples of it. Like, and again, I also have something very top of mind. So I think, yeah, the experience was a good one. I felt safe and comfortable to do this on camera. I don't think I revealed anything that I wouldn't want someone to see. I don't think so, at least. And it felt gentle, yet I was being pushed because you were asking about my inner development, right? And I don't talk a lot like that. So thank you for making it safe to step out of my very transactional world sometimes.
Thank you. Yeah.
So we can just open up to conversation with the whole group. If you have some comments, questions, feedback, anything is welcome.
Mark, I just noticed how yeah, which is just such a good reminder. Like Kath, she had prepared and she had come with something and had some energy around it and some feelings about it and even some thoughts and opinions about it. And um, and you didn't get hooked into any of that. Like you just stayed really curious and left a really wide open space for her to share that and then ask some questions that had her sort of look at from some different perspectives. And you could just really feel the trust that you had that she was going to find what she needed to find in it. So yeah, that was really a great reminder of how important, like what we say, but also what we don't say, and the energy, like just really that presence and energy that we bring.
Yeah, that's such is something I've had to learn, as well as even though I kind of created the tool, I didn't know necessarily how to use it. And I'm still learning, how to use it, which is remarkable, right? Because you think if you create something, you sort of also know how to use it right away. But it has been a process. And, in the beginning, I was much more in terms of trying to either defend, the data and kind of go like, no, well, it's like this, and or to just put it aside and say, well, yeah, sometimes it doesn't resonate, and that's fine. Let's focus on something else. But what I've come to really learn over the years is that, like, almost always when there's some sort of energy, like Kathleen showed up, with quite some energy around collaborating, or if there's some kind of tension in the data where the score the saying something and you feel it's like should be something else, that the more that I just kind of stay with it and listen and allow the person to speak about it, because obviously it's something that's important to them, to allow it to come out. That in itself is already serving a tremendous purpose, right? Because it's bringing something out, and whether or not it ends up aligning with the color or not actually doesn't really matter. Because I always say that it's the purpose of the assessment and the tool. It's a means to an end. Like it's really just a door opener to deeper conversations, right? And if it can open up a deeper conversation, or if it can give people the opportunity to talk about something that's really important to them at that point in time, then I'm actually really fine just to put it aside, and it's like, okay, it's done what it has to do, and be present with the person. And sometimes, when they start talking about it, like today, it was like, well, actually what I'm hearing feels more like the skills in the acting, and just mirroring that back without saying that that's what's going on, but just mirroring it can also be very powerful. Like I think in this case, Kathy was like, yeah, actually there's something there, and that then, supported the conversation to go forward. But yeah, it's just kind of takes time, and but it's also what makes this really fun, I think, and interesting. Yeah, it's a really nice observation.
Are there any other questions or comments, or you could also be thinking about how this might be used in practice for yourself with teams or organizations? And I think you were going to give us an example of its use in an organization, right, Mark?
Yep.
Before that, if anybody has any other questions, please feel free.
I do actually. Mark, I'd like to ask you about the reason for, and this is more generic, beyond the tool, and if it's not appropriate now, happy to move it offline. Why the choice of optimism versus hope? Because in medical terms, and I've been doing this own research for myself, hope is actually a stronger driver than optimism in terms of positive outcomes. So I'm just curious, does anyone know, or
have you seen the new version of the IDG guide?
No, I was trying to download it when you sent me my report. I wasn't able to.
Because actually that's one of the changes. So now it's hope and optimism. So they've sort of put it together. But that was indeed one of the things that they learned through the feedback that they did. So it was a year-long sort of version 2 piece of research, and it was the new guide. They don't call it framework anymore. It's now called the guide. Was revealed last month at the summit, and optimism was one of the skills that got upgraded or updated, and to include hope. Yeah, faith, hope. Yeah, I think that's a really important addition. And there's a few other changes as well. I think somebody was talking about perseverance. I don't know if it was tomorrow or at the beginning, or that was one of the sessions that had been spoken about in previous meetings. And that one has now also been renamed and repositioned under resilience. So it's not perseverance anymore, it's resilience.
Well, that's so interesting, because that's what we were chatting about in our when we did it.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, I'll have a look at that.
Yeah. The website, the IDG website doesn't, it's not the materials haven't been updated yet, but there is a PowerPoint going around on LinkedIn, and I have it, so I could send it to the group afterwards if you want. That has all the updated skills and the definitions, and I'm actually working right now on updating the assessment platform as well. So by the end of the year, it will have all the new skills, all the new definitions. So that's coming.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so we have like 15 minutes left. So let me just let me bring up a couple of slides on an organizational example. Because usually that's a question people have, is can this be used in companies as well? And it absolutely can be used in companies. And the way it's deployed is like each individual will take the assessment, and they'll take it in the context of their organization. So the questions are sort of reframed a bit, so that when they're answering them, it's clear that they're answering it in terms of who they are in relation to the company that they're working for, the team that they're in. And then the data gets aggregated. So we have an analytics portal where we can aggregate data at an organizational level. And then we can do all kinds of analysis on that. So we can look at it by, department or age groups or gender, or, all kinds of, really interesting analysis that often reveal some very powerful insights. But again, those insights are only interesting when the data can show something, but I'll never go in and tell them what it means, right? So it's exactly the same thing at an individual level. We're not going in as consultants, but we're going in as coaches, and we are holding the space for the key stakeholders to interpret what is going on and to come up with their own interpretation and meaning making from the results. And so this case study is with a company called Siam Computing. They're based in India. They're sort of a mid-sized company. I think they employ about 100 people. And they do amazing work, especially with entrepreneurs and sort of small businesses, and help them bring to life their vision, all the sort of tech side of it. And so their question was that they have a very strong culture, and they have really quite powerful values that are being lived fairly well on a day-to-day basis. And when they found out about the IDGs, they were like, yeah, can we use the IDGs to see how well we're doing on our values or on our culture? Is there a way of linking the IDGs to our culture? So we did this mapping exercise together with some key people in their organization. We said, okay, here are the values that you have on the left, right? Own it, be proactive, user first, always learning, etc. And can we map this to some of the IDG skills? And so this is what we came up with, and this was really a collaborative exercise, because if we could map it in a way that felt accurate for the team, then we could also give them some input on how expressed they are on their values today, and which values are most expressed and which ones are not as expressed as they would like to, because we could bring in the measurement piece. All right, so we went ahead and did that, and we interviewed, or we sent the survey out to all the people in the company. We aggregated the data, and then we presented this back. And so you see here, ranked from most expressed to least expressed, the values as interpreted by the IDG skills that they're associated with. So the least expressed was lead with empathy, right? Empathy and compassion, co-creation skills, they were both underexpressed as a result. And so we played this back, but we didn't give them the data at first. We sat down with the CEO and a few other people, and before sharing the data with them, we asked them which of the values did they feel were most expressed, which ones did they expect to be most expressed, right? And it was really, really interesting, because the CEO came back and he was pretty confident. He was like, yeah, lead with empathy. Lead with empathy is the thing that we are most expressed on. And then, of course, we shared the data, and it was the exact opposite. It was the one that was least expressed. And so for him, it was this sort of big revelation. And one of the ways in which he ended up making sense of this was to say that when it comes to customers, right, dealing with their customers, they are actually very empathetic, in the sense that they listen to their needs, and they really spend a lot of time assessing what their clients are looking for, what their needs are, and then really building products and solutions that are very tailored to those needs. So they spend a lot of time doing that, and that was how he was looking at empathy, something in terms of relationship to their clients. But what came through was that internally, that activation of empathy was not quite where he wanted it to be, or they wanted it to be. And so he started to realize that, yeah, actually there's a lot of opportunity for us to spend a bit more time with each other, and to listen in more quality ways, and to sometimes slow things down, because it was a very fast-paced environment, et cetera, et cetera. And all I'll do now, there's many other things I could share about this, but I just want to share a very little clip of Kuze, who is the CEO of this company, talking about what happened to him when he saw the results, right? When he first came up with the results. So I think I need to share the sound. Share computer sound. Okay, and then let's see if this works. Oh wait, I need to do it in the PowerPoint. Give me 1 second. I'll bring up the PowerPoint. PowerPoint.
In the meantime, Carly, you had a question. I don't know whether you can multitask, Mark, but would you like to?
Yeah,
now?
I've got it here, so I'm ready to go on the video. But
Okay.
here's the
Okay,
question.
after that then. Okay.
So let me share my PowerPoint. Okay, so hopefully this works.
So one of the things that we pride ourselves in, one of our 8 values is lead with empathy, and so much so that we actually it's a USP that we pitch to our clients, that we lead with empathy both internally and externally, and that's the extension of also thinking about putting your user first always, and it's always with that. And the most embarrassing thing was that when we did this mapping, so there were 2 magic things that happened. One was being able to map our values to these IDGs, and then second one was quantifying that and getting the results. And when I looked at it, and Mark did this whole thing saying, Kuze, what do you think you have scored the highest on? And hubris and confidence, I was like, of course you scored high on empathy. And then he showed me the results, and empathy is what we scored the least on. And that was a big light bulb moment. It was a big thing that we realized. My grandfather used to say that 80% of solving a problem is acknowledging that a problem exists. And we didn't even know that this was a problem, right? And this assessment was something that brought that out to the fore for us. And just talking about it internally and showing that this is where we are, this is the report card, was actually a very big step change in everybody's mindset. Because, as I said, we internally used to pride ourselves because we had won these awards and whatever for being a model culture company. And then when the results came, we realized that there's a lot more work to be done. And that was the start of the journey. And as I said, the big step in this was showing the results that we are actually low on empathy, and talking about empathy and whatever it is. We didn't do anything big or dramatic or activities, etc. It's acknowledgement, talking about it, and then saying what else can we do. One of the mantras that we actually brought in is when there's a conflict or a challenge, we ask the question, do you believe that the other person is doing the best that they can? Okay. You always, if there is a problem, you always start with this question first. That do you think that Devi is doing the best that she can? Yes or no? 100% of the time, always everybody says yes, right? So then the second question, if that is yes, then what is the problem, right? And you shift the problem from being people-centric to being actual problem-centric. And why is this creating a source, right? So just things like this has been quite incredible.
There we go. I don't know if the audio was.
That we pride ourselves in, one of our 8 values is lead with empathy. And
so hopefully the quality was good enough.
Yes, we heard it just about. Yes, we did. Yeah.
Great.
Carly has a question.
Sure.
So I do have that hand raised before was accidental.
Oh, okay. Well, you're welcome.
Oh, sorry about that, but I do. I'm curious. The UN is one of the clients that I've worked with, quite a bit over the last few years, and I'm curious, like, does anyone know of how aware they are of the IDGs? Like, none of, like they're the ones working directly on the SDGs. Kathy, please.
Yeah, so it's coming in different places, but the majority of it is coming in through the UN Staff College, through some of the leadership programs. It is being
Okay.
imbued into it. Is it common language? No. Does it have the potential for either an agency, a division, a location to get to go into this? Absolutely.
Mhm.
However, if I was going to, because of what's going on right now with all the cuts, if I was looking at a strategic entry point, I'd be looking at grassroots networks
Mhm.
and really building their capacity, their language, so that when that structure regroups, and will have to go out and co-create because they will not have the funds, nor will they have the mandate that they've had in the past. Some of
Yeah.
these agencies, the beneficiaries and those who advocate on behalf of beneficiaries will be in a better place to, ideally, there'll be a power shift. And so I do think the IDGs at the grassroots level has huge potential in around some of the things we care about.
You know,
I'd love to maybe chat with you at some point. I actually just connected yesterday with a young man who's Kenyan that I've connected with on LinkedIn, and he was like, maybe you should come talk to our government. I was like,
So,
and
yeah.
anyways, it sounds like you would be a great person because you're also on the ground. He's in Nairobi. But anyhow, it sounds like it'd be maybe fun to chat at some point.
Well, Mark, if you're okay, can I offer this to a group of young people who are working on SDGs and just get some feedback from them?
of course, absolutely. That's what it's there for. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm the project manager for ICF Ignite project for SDGs. And we've been coaching
Oh,
young
nice.
leaders who are working on action projects. So this could be kind of like the appreciation
Yes.
for finishing the coaching to them and having them think a bit more about their journey forward.
Really nice. You know, the other connection that somebody has made, or a few people have made actually recently, that I found really nice is the B Corp movement, if you're familiar with that, because they also have SDGs, sort of contribution to the SDGs built into their mandate, and actually very few of them are really aware of the IDGs, but when you talk to them about it, they're like, oh yeah, of course, that makes a lot of sense. So I think it's a fairly easy, again, entry point, right? What we were talking about before is, how does the IDG platform sort of the target, right, from a marketing point of view versus the human potential one. I think B Corps is also a very, could be very interesting to look at.
In Kenya, because I was working briefly there for it was a Bill Gates Foundation project on building leadership capability in ministries of finance, and they do actually have a leadership school for public sector. It's quite impressive, actually. So that could maybe be a place to introduce it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, many opportunities. So I think, yeah, we're at the end of our time here. And I just want to say a big thank you. It was really fun. I really, really enjoyed these exchanges. And thank you for inviting me, Simcha and Rachel and all of you into your group. I definitely would like to join more often. So
Oh,
I
you're
think I'm,
welcome.
I think I'm on the list now. So
Thank you so much for everything that you've contributed to all of us, which was really insightful, artful, a lovely demonstration, really interesting. You can see a lot of potential in this, of course, in so many ways. And it's great to hear people building on that at the end. We could use it in here, we could use it there.
yeah, exactly.
Mark, just a very practical question. So if we had someone take the assessment, the report you sent me was different than the report that I got and I shared.
So yeah, that's the thing. Like on the portal, on the top right, you'll see there's a button says View IDG Assessment Report, and there you can download the PDF that I sent you. So
Okay.
what you sent was just the homepage, right? It's like yeah. So sometimes people miss it. Like we've tried to make it more visible, but there's a button at the top right. And there you can just access the report. You can download it yourself as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, everyone, for being here. And please do join us on further sessions. We will, actually, it's probably a good idea if I send out the Zoom invitation per se, and then you could just put it in your agendas. And we will be informing you of the title of the next session. And take care. Have a good rest of your day or evening, wherever you are.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Look forward to
Bye-bye.
seeing you another time.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks so
Bye.
much, Mark.
Bye, thank you.
Bye-bye.